Grace here for another podcast episode, and for this episode we will be talking about sadness. So yeah, let's just start out with favorite thing. This week me and my friend, we got together and we went thrifting, which I love going thrifting, and I actually got the shirt. I don't know if y'all can tell, but it's like a dark green, but it's really pretty. I really like this shirt. And then I also got a new book, and then I also got this book. It's a devotional by Sadie Robertson, and Sadie Robertson Huff, she's like one of my favorite people. I love her podcast. I love her devotionals. I am learning piano, and I'm not that good at it, honestly. But right now I'm learning the song "Firm Foundation," and that's one of my favorite songs. It's one of my favorite songs. No, one of my favorite worship songs. There's a bunch others, obviously, that I love, but that one's one of my favorites. So prayer requests. Honestly, I have no idea if I have any prayer requests. Though actually, lately I felt really distant from God, if that makes any sense, because I feel like part of the reason I'm not going to read my Bible as much is because I don't feel God's presence, and faith isn't like a feeling, so it's like I shouldn't, but I just feel like I felt, I don't know, I really want to just I guess prayer requests that my faith would just grow this year. One of my key, so I've started doing this thing every year to have every year, I just started it this year, but I wanted to have a word of the year, if that makes sense. So a word that I want to stand by. So for example, it could be confidence, and I want to grow in confidence. For me, my word for the year is joy, because I want to practice having joy in all circumstances, because I feel like I'm not as good as that as I am with other things. And my Bible teacher, before the end of the school year, she had said, out of all of the fruits of the Spirit, which one do you want to work on? She was like, which one do you want to work on the most? And I was like, joy. That's definitely what I want to work on, because I don't really feel like I want to just live fully and just always be joyful. Oh, another word for this year is fearless. Live fearlessly. I really want to live fearlessly. So fearless and joy are my words for this year, and I'm excited. But it's actually such nice weather today. Yeah, so just prayers, always prayers for my faith. But this year I really just want to be strong in my faith, especially this year. I had a really hard year last year, and I really just want to grow in my faith this year and just really be my true self and not be afraid of things. It's fine to be afraid of things, but I want to live fearlessly and just be joyful in this life and just love the little things. And the shade right now and the weather right now is amazing. Hopefully y'all can hear me. The mic isn't that close to me. Starting off with the verse today, let me just see if this, I brought out my youth version, because on youth version they have a setting where you can search up words and it will give you verses. So that's what I've been doing for the verse today. But my phone died, so there's Bible verses at the start of the chapter. So if you look here, there's a Bible verse right here. Okay, so the first verse is Proverbs 23:7. Proverbs 23:7 NKJV. For as he thinks in his heart, so is he, which kind of means the thoughts that you fill your head with, you're gonna start believing, and those are gonna start to become like your foundation. I think this is 2 Kings 20, verse 5b, because it's like talking about some guy, but then it goes, I have heard your prayer, I have seen your tears, indeed I will heal you, which I like that verse a lot. And then for the sadness verse, they have Ecclesiastes 7:3 NRSV, which is, sorrow is better than laughter, for by sadness of countenance the heart is made glad. Which I don't fully understand, but I think it's saying through expressing your sadness, healing will come and your heart will be glad. If that makes any sense, and we're going to be talking more about sadness, so if it doesn't, it'll make sense. So I'm just going to be kind of once again reading some points from here. This chapter is literally like this thin. It's like literally 4 pages, so. Okay. Sadness is the feeling that speaks to how much you value what is missed, what is gone, and what is lost. Sadness is proportional. The more sadness you feel after a loss, the more you value what is lost. The more you live an open-hearted life of fullness, the more you lose. Sadness gives us the gift of valuing and honoring life, which, that makes sense. And then he gives an example. When I die, I hope there will be a lot of people in great sadness at my funeral. I want people to weep about my being gone. I want them to cry because the man they knew is no longer with them. I want them to say that I was known, that I was loved, and that I mattered. And while they are honoring my life with their tears, they are also honoring their own hearts even more because they have opened their hearts to being known. Which, that makes sense too. Oh, the shade. So nice. It looks so pretty too. Okay. Their tears will express the state of their hearts and allow them to recognize that they do indeed matter to themselves and to a relationship that was important. It's basically saying sadness allows you to acknowledge how you're feeling and acknowledge that you really value something, and it helps you just be vulnerable about something you love or miss or whatever. And then it continues. Let's see. One of the gifts of sadness is that it is the first step towards healing from the loss. Sadness speaks directly to our need to grieve for what is gone. If we grieve genuinely, we eventually come to accept life on life's terms. Through grief, we find comfort and deeper wisdom as we move about in life in the absence of who or what was lost. From that acceptance, we find healing. Then it continues and says, sadness is fundamental to full life because it opens the door to healing. However, if we can't acknowledge how much what we've lost means to us, then sadness will deepen because the need to honor our losses with grief doesn't go away. So it's basically saying you need to acknowledge that you're feeling sad, because sadness is basically like valuing what you've lost or what you missed or whatever. And of course you may, like, let's just say you lost someone close to you. You're always going to miss them. You're always going to miss them. And some days you're gonna feel really sad, and other days you won't miss them nearly as much as other ones. When you lose someone close to you, sadness, it can be really hard and really tough when you lose someone close to you. And it can be really hard talking about it with other people, and some days you'll just bawl your eyes out about it, and other days you can talk comfortably about the loss you've had and share your experiences with others to strengthen their faith. But when it comes to loss, if you acknowledge your sadness, if you let yourself cry, if you tell someone about it, not only can they just sit there and cry with you, but also acknowledging it, being vulnerable about your sadness, first of all, makes you feel better because crying really helps. But second of all, it just really helps. Crying really does help because it just like brings healing. I feel like crying for some reason just brings healing. I don't know why. And then he goes on to say, many of us have heard we need to disregard our losses and dismiss the pain of our hearts. People say, don't cry over spilled milk, or that's water under the bridge. Have you ever wondered what happens to all the water after it passes under the bridge? In my own recovery of heart, I got off the bridge and walked along the riverbank, following the river to its end. I could hardly believe what I found. All the water from all those years that I thought had followed to the ocean or evaporated had collected in a big pool at the base of the dam. Only so much water can flow under that bridge before the dam will crack and break from the strain. The danger isn't in releasing the water. The danger is never releasing the water, which is kind of a symbolic symbol. It's kind of like a symbol saying like the danger isn't like it. The problem, like it's kind of saying, so like right here, the danger isn't in releasing the water. The danger is never releasing the water. It's kind of saying, it's just kind of showing how important it is to acknowledge your sadness and your grief. Then it continues and it says, the heart's sadness is the same way. Either we value life and deal with the losses we've experienced, or we will eventually burst open and deal with us as consequences that occur due to denial of grief. If we dare listen to our sadness and value the losses it declares, we will awaken to the restoring power of grief. Grief in turn leads us to acceptance. Now, I don't know why, but when I was reading this, I just remember something. I've heard people say one reason they don't want to be vulnerable about their sadness is because they don't want to burden other people with their emotions. And I totally understand that. That is very realistic. But I've heard people be like, they don't want to like burden people with their emotions. And honestly, I think most of the time people want to hear, not always, but I feel like the people you love the most, like your family or your friends, the ones you really trust, will want to hear about your emotions. Honestly, like personally, me, like I love it when people tell me about their emotions, even if they're bawling their eyes out. I just love being there for them, and I would personally much rather them tell me everything than just be too scared to burden me. But I do know, like, so like experiencing a loss, and you know the people around you have experienced that same loss, like if you lost a family member, it could be hard telling your family, or those you love the most who've experienced that loss, that you miss them, because, you know, obviously they miss them too, but I honestly think that would bring y'all closer, because even if y'all are both bawling your eyes out together, that honestly brings you closer, because tears bring healing and tears bring people together. And it isn't easy telling people about your emotions, but it's definitely worth it. And also a quick note, so on last Sunday, the sermon that I had listened to on Sunday was, so they're going through a series at the church I'm at. But in that sermon, they were talking about grief, and I thought it was really good, and I thought I wanted to share some bits from it. So the first thing is, I actually might read this at the end because it's so good. I think I'll do that. So then we go into self-pity, which is lovely. So our society often views people who express sadness as being stuck in self-pity. To avoid this label, we often hide our sadness behind a facade of false strength or deny it to those with whom we have a relationship with. We equate sadness with weakness, lack of dependability, or even faithlessness. I'm going to read that again because that is important, because so many people believe that. And I'm also going to add to that, so many people think crying is a weakness. It is not a weakness. Seriously, sometimes I'll literally cry over the most random things, and then I just feel so much better after getting it out. Because if I haven't cried in a while, it just like feels good to cry. But I'm going to read that again. We equate sadness with weakness, lack of dependability, or even faithlessness. Self-pity is a way to avoid genuine sadness. It is a series of dialogues that go something like, nothing ever goes right for me. No matter how much I try, things still turn out badly. Or, I'm always the one who has to sacrifice. When we experience self-pity, we are unwilling to feel sadness. Rather, we use self-pity to defend against our sadness and avoid exposing our hearts. None of these words are mine, y'all. I'm reading from this book. Again, it's kind of this emotion series is kind of like a study over this book, almost. Not sponsored, but self-pity is a way to escape the pain of sadness by trying to make others feel sadness for us. That is quite relatable, honestly. Last year, I had a really hard year. And some days I would just feel bitter or upset about something. And because of that, I would just start thinking about it, and I would try to look sad so that other people would try to notice that I'm sad and try to help me. And I would be like so upset and so bitter, and I would try to look upset, but then I would honestly feel more and more upset, that I just like would feel like the whole day was horrible. And it was kind of like this like rain cloud over my head. Like I just felt so horrible. And I would just try to like make other people feel that way too, if that makes sense. Not on purpose. I don't know why I did it. It was just I was going through a lot. When you feel self-pity, whenever you feel self-pity, you're attempting to express the truth of your heart. You are sad, but you are unwilling to let yourself feel sad, so you try to make others feel what you refuse to feel. You try to make others feel the sadness that you need to feel for yourself. Then it goes on to say, self-pity is an attempt to manipulate others into taking responsibility for our heart's response and neediness. It's an attempt to be valued. No. Okay. Self-pity is an attempt to manipulate others into taking responsibility for our heart's response and neediness. It's an attempt to be valued, but with others doing all of the work. Self-pity is a way to escape the pain of sadness by trying to make others feel sadness for us. Think about how often you have said to yourself, it's no big deal, I'll just get over it. I've heard people say this, or I've even heard people say, she has a tremendous amount of faith, a tremendous amount of trust in God. She doesn't even shed a tear at her own son's funeral. That's considered a strong faith to not have pain over your son's death. That's not faith, it's being terrified of feeling. That is the way of woundedness. and survival, of rejecting our humanity and the struggle of relational intimacy with God. Once again, not my words. Then it goes on to say, when we cannot feel sadness, when we cannot value, when we cannot ache within over what we lose, we have resigned ourselves to an existence that never lets life affect us. As a result, we can never find the healing that sadness can bring, because sadness is a cleansing feeling. It eases the burden of daily life. Tears are gifts that we give to whatever we lose. Tears are gifts, they bring healing. Okay, sorry guys, I had to move because my iPod died. We need to be willing to value openly and have deep sadness. We can journal or write songs or write poems to express our sadness. But what's even better is being vulnerable to people, telling them our sadness, because honestly, from experience, when I'm sad, I really just need like a hug and I need to cry. When I'm sad, I really just need a hug and I need to cry. And from experience, when I cry alone, it is great. I get it all out. It's nice, but it's almost better getting it all out to someone else. Telling someone about it, having them just be able to hug you while you cry is just so healing. We need to take the time to visit on the porch with someone who dropped by, visit old friends we've been meaning to see, get up early to listen to God whisper glorious things as the sun rises. We need to send letters to our children at the occasions of their milestones, raise grandchildren to the stars for God to see, hug our friends and tell them how much we love them. We need to climb these heights and take on all kinds of journeys as a way to live. We need to grieve deeply when people we love depart, or when what we dream doesn't come true. We cannot delight deeply in anything or anyone unless we are willing to walk in the world of sadness. Sadness allows the intimacy and impact of love to be much richer because it exposes the heart to its true ability to value and honor. What are you sad about? What wound has been unable to heal because of the sadness you aren't willing to feel? What sadness is in your life that you fight against? What have you been dreaming of doing that you haven't risked because you might lose? And that's the end of the sadness chapter. And I'm gonna speak some of these notes from the sermon that I heard. So it first talks about reading through Psalm 139, and then it talks about it specifically says Psalm 39 1 through 10, but Psalm 39 is great. 139. Then it says, God sees you. He isn't distant from you. Even when he feels like miles away, he is there. And I actually have an experience with that. I used to play volleyball, and this year I'm taking a break, but I played volleyball 6th through 8th grade. And in 8th grade, I told you I had a hard year, and the thing about volleyball is it's a game of failure, and one of my greatest fears is failure. And when it came to volleyball, I first joined it in 6th grade so that I could learn to be louder, learn to talk more, learn to be okay with failure. And that was the reason I joined it first. And when 8th grade came, I went through a really hard year, and I just couldn't do it. Honestly, volleyball just became just too much for me. I would just cry over everything. I would make a mistake and I would get so upset. We would lose a volleyball game and I would just feel like it was the end of the world, because I was going through so much at the time that the stress from what I was going through was impacting when things didn't go my way in a volleyball game. And I felt like God wasn't there, because I remember one game I was kind of like testing God's ability, I guess. I was like, God, I haven't really felt you in this season. I feel like you've forgotten us. And I was like, God, if you're really there, let us win this volleyball game. Well, newsflash, we lost the volleyball game. And I was so upset. I grabbed my journal and journaled away on this swing right here, actually. I was right here. And I was listening to, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Seth Skleeter, I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm so sorry. But I was listening to music out here. I was actually listening to Counting My Blessings and Stay, I think was what I was listening to, by Seth something. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm really, really sorry. But I was listening to those songs, and those songs were seriously impactful in that season I was going through. But anyways, I was listening to music and I was journaling, and I was just crying right here. And I came over here near my window, actually, and we have these rocks right here, and I grabbed a bunch of rocks and I took them all over to the window. And in front of my window, I wrote with the rocks. I took the rocks and wrote out words. I wrote, "Where are you, God?" And I really believed he wasn't there. I thought he was distant. He felt miles away, and I thought, man, he must have forgotten about me. I must be done. And a few months later, I think, or it might have been a week later, not a week later, it might have been a few weeks later, it might have been a month later, I don't quite remember, but I had this revelation, I guess, and later I came out and changed those rocks to say, I am here, because I knew God was there. But I really felt like he wasn't there, and he is there, and he truly is there. And after going through that rough season, I would not exchange that season for anything. It has taught me so much. If you're going through a hard season right now, I just hope that's encouragement to you that God is there. He hears you. He has a plan. He will make a breakthrough for you. His timing is perfect. He's got a whole plan, an entire plan. Trust me, he seriously does. It feels like he doesn't, but he does. Then these notes continue, and it says, all grief is felt 100%. We try to minimize or compare, but we can't distract ourselves from the pain. There is a Bible verse that the guy said that in this world you'll have trouble, but behold, I have overcome the world. Which I love that, because God has overcome all our problems and everything we're going to go through, and he has everything planned out. And I love Jeremiah 29:11 is like, what is it? I don't know, but I would totally search up Jeremiah 29:11. Oh, that said God grieves with us. God grieves with us too. Jesus wept. God weeps when we weep. I heard someone say, I don't know where it was, but it was like this like podcast thing or something, but I heard this person had like a dream or something, or like a vision. The person, she said that she had heard that God saves our tears, which I just thought was so sweet. I don't know why, but I did. Anyways, then it says, not all feelings are true, but all feelings are felt. And then the pastor had said something. He said, I was more acquainted with the God of the mountain top than the God of the valley. And I was like, wait, these sweat bees are trying to kill me. Okay, Jeremiah 29:11 through 13, says, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. This is NLT. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. In those days when you pray, I will listen. If you look for me wholeheartedly, you will find me. And I know everyone knows, not everyone, but most people know Psalm 29:11, super popular verse. But Jeremiah 29:12-13, not as many people know, but I like it because it's like, when you pray and seek me wholeheartedly, you will find me. And I love that. Anyways, but I'm going to read this again from what the pastor said. He said, I was more acquainted with the God of the mountaintop than the God of the valley. Which I love that. Then he said, God doesn't stay distant. He steps into our mess. The suffering is worth it. And then there's, this might have been a Bible verse. For the joy set before him, he chose to endure the cross. He had a hope. And because of that hope, he kept going. He kept going through the suffering and through the pain to find the joy and the hope on the other side. And it's talking about Jesus because he had to endure the cross for us. Then it says, the grave doesn't have the final say. God sees you in your suffering and weeps and steps in the midst of your pain. Trust God. He has a plan. God sees you. He isn't distant from you. Even when he feels like miles away, he is there. So I really loved those notes from that sermon. Those were really good. Now we're finally at the personal reflection questions. I know this video is longer. I know this is literally the shortest chapter of this entire book. And I was like, this is going to be so quick. It's going to be like a 10, 12, 15 minute video. Newsflash, it's going to be one of my longest possibly. But honestly, I felt like there's just so much to talk about, and I absolutely love this. Because I feel like there's just so much to talk about, because sadness is, I feel like, what a lot of people can struggle with sometimes. So yeah, I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to ask you 4 questions today. How do you express disappointment? Do you honor your disappointments with sadness? What makes grieving your losses so important? Then it goes on, and I'm sorry if you can hear the lawnmower in the background. Someone's like mowing the grass. When was the last time you sincerely cried for something? Were you ashamed of your tears? What do you believe about tears? And I know there's probably people out there who's like, tears are a weakness, but they're not. They bring healing and they connect you with other people, but I know that's really hard to believe sometimes. Then the next question is, who's the person in your life that you miss the most? For whom do you not feel sadness, but wish you could? That doesn't make much sense, but you know what? Okay. When you remember times that are past, childhood or college or the good old days or whatever, do you honor these times with sadness, or do you avoid remembering them? How have you honored or avoided them? So yeah, that is the end of the chapter and everything, and I'm going to need to escape to the inside. Everything, I feel like there's bugs might be in this bag, so I'm kind of skeptical, but I'm gonna shove everything in there and then figure it out later. So yeah, that's the end of the episode. I hope that this impacted y'all, but you know what, it may not have impacted some of y'all, but I hope it impacted at least one person. So yeah, that's the end of the episode. Honestly, I hope y'all have a great week, and I'll be praying for all of y'all. If y'all have any prayer requests or like favorite things or whatever, just let me know. What are y'all doing for summer? Y'all got any summer plans? And yeah, that's honestly it. So the book that I used, it's called The Voice of the Heart by Dodd. Yes, I have to keep mentioning it every episode. I'm sorry. This is practically a study on it. My favorite things I showed y'all, the Live Fearless by Sadie Robertson Huff. If you've never heard of Sadie Robertson Huff, she is like, I would totally recommend her because she has a she has a podcast called Wow That's Good. The Whoa That's Good podcast by Sadie Robertson Huff. She has several books, devos. The one I am currently reading is Live Fearless. The one I was reading before that I still have yet to finish is Live. I would definitely recommend some of her stuff. She's awesome. She has some really good quotes and really good sayings. But yeah, that's the end of this episode, and I really hope y'all enjoyed it, and yeah, I have to escape to the indoors because, man, there are so many bugs. So I hope y'all have a great week. I'll be praying for y'all, and yeah, hope y'all have a great week.